This video was recorded using an emulator. Hello, people of the internet. Today, I just wanted to talk about a somewhat controversial issue in the retro gaming community, and that is, of course, as the video title should tell you, the usage of emulators and the benefits to using them. But, of course, I want to get this right off the bat that this video is not meant to attack purists who prefer to have the original hardware. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just a matter of personal preference, but it's just rather to explain the upsides of using emulation as opposed to a traditional console. So if you take even just a few minutes and research on the internet emulation, you'll immediately see that a lot of people tend to tell you that the experience is better on a console and you should use that as opposed to emulation. Emulation is black magic and is a product of the devil. Stay away from it. Get the crosses and pitchforks. So in contrast to that perspective, I am going to go ahead and give you some of the upsides of using emulators as opposed to consoles, and in fact argue against some of the more common points that will be pointed out by its many naysayers. So, just a little bit about me. I have been playing video games since I was about 2 years old, in fact, and my first video game was Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. Arguably, well, according to many people, including myself, is one of the greatest video game consoles ever made. Not just from a nostalgic standpoint, like even playing a lot of the games now, there are a lot of great games on that console. You see, and you could say the same thing for a lot of other consoles. There are a ton of fantastic games that are a lot of fun to play that you should definitely check out. Everyone should check out. But anyway, see, like I remember when the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation 1 were current gen consoles. Point of me telling you all this is that I just want you to know that I am familiar with these consoles. I am no stranger to them. I love them. They are great. They are great systems. I love having the original hardware and all, but let's be honest here. Say I want to get back into the Super Nintendo, right? A good choice for a lot of people. A lot of great games, like I've already said. And I go on eBay to go and look up a Super Nintendo, right? Well, I looked it up, and as of today, this is January 2017, a Super Nintendo, buy it now, will cost you around $100. And that's just for a console and a couple controllers. Now, a few of them I looked at, you can get a couple games with, but they're mostly sports games that you're really probably not going to want anyway. So you're going to want to get a few games to go with that Super Nintendo, right? So, as of today, me looking these up, these are the average buy it now prices. Donkey Kong Country, $25. Super Mario World, $30. Super Metroid, $35. And Castlevania 4, $44. I just picked a few games that, a lot of people are going to want. Some games with very good reputation. And altogether, that comes out just for the Super Nintendo and a few games, $234. So I don't know about you, but that seems just a little bit overpriced considering it's a console that's over 20 years old at this point. That isn't guaranteed to work, by the way. In fact, I've had it happen to me before. One time I bought an Atari 2600, a junior model, off of eBay, and the seller said, they tested it, it worked, so that's all great and fine. But when I get it, it doesn't work. But luckily, that was like the third Atari I actually bought up at that point. So I had an extra power adapter lying around, tested that, and the system worked, but the controllers that they sent with it were defective out of the box, which pisses me off, not only because, well, they sent me broken shit, but on the other hand, the seller was also talking out of their ass, and they probably didn't test it at all before they sent it. And I had that happen to me again with a PlayStation 1, bought it off of eBay, got it, didn't work. So I went up to the pawn shop, and this was dumb of me because I had problems with this shitty place before. He sells me a PlayStation. He says, tested it, works, wants eBay price for it. Couldn't find a wire to it, but I already had it from the other one. Lowest he'll go is $25. So I get it, take it home, and the little spindle, the part that spins the disc, is broke, and it comes up every time you lift the game out of the freaking console. So not only are these consoles vastly overpriced for the majority of people who just want to sit there and enjoy these retro video games, you're not guaranteed to get a working system, even from people with positive feedback on eBay, because these people did have positive feedback, which means you can't really trust anyone now. You got to buy from a collector's site, and they're probably going to charge about the same or more for their systems because, collector value. And if you're going to spend $234 on something to play video games, there's better alternatives that you could spend that money on. For instance, you could get an inexpensive computer for that price, which is capable of running all of those games absolutely perfectly. You won't have any issues at all, generally speaking. Or you could even get something like an Android tablet that's capable of emulating all of these. And they do make Android tablets with physical controls. I have one. It was a $200 Android tablet. It looks like a 3DS. It's called a GPD XD. This thing can emulate all the old classic systems up to the PlayStation. I have no problems playing them on the device. Most of them work just fine. And I have access to more than just a Super Nintendo. I can do the Super Nintendo, I can do the Nintendo 64, I can do the PlayStation 1, the Commodore 64, the Game Boy Advance, DOS, so on. The point is that value for money, you can do much, much, much better. While also keeping in mind that these devices can be used for more than just video games. And I know what people are going to be saying too, emulators aren't 100% perfect, they're not 100% accurate. Which is true to an extent, but not as bad as you would be led to believe. For instance, most games I've played, I've only played a couple that don't work right, and they still play flawlessly. There's only been a couple I've played that don't work right. Most games, by and far, play perfectly, and it's the exact same experience you would get on the respective console. And by not working right, I mean just very, very minor graphical issues. Like, I know F-Zero on some emulators has some issues to where, like, the names won't show up on the side of the cars. Big deal, right? Not really. And then I know Apocalypse on the PlayStation 1. These are the only two I've experienced, by the way, that have these issues. Like, has an occasional kind of rainbow effect that happens every once in a while, and the games are perfectly playable otherwise. And in fact, there is a 100% Super Nintendo emulator that's currently available called Hygen. I haven't used it myself personally. I use ZSNES on my computer, but documentation claims that it is 100% accurate and perfect and will play everything absolutely flawlessly no matter what it is. And my last point I want to bring up is that emulators are important from a software preservation point. I mean, eventually, you got to think about it. It might be a very, very long time from now, but all these consoles, all these systems, computers are going to eventually break down. There's not going to be any more parts for them, and the only way you're going to be able to play these games is via an emulator or a clone system and a flash cart. So even if you don't agree with me on all my other points, you have to agree with me on this one. All this software, all these video games, all this artwork you want to say from the past however many years, if it weren't for emulators, a lot of this stuff would be lost. If it weren't for people, uploading the ROMs, people programming the emulators to actually play them, we would have all this software just gone. And then if you wanted to play the stuff in, say, like 60, 100 years, if you wanted to play it just for fun, and, the games and systems aren't around anymore, because I don't think they'll be around for that long, you wouldn't be able to play them if it weren't for the emulators. Or say if you even just wanted to play it for a historical perspective on the medium, you wouldn't be able to experience that either. Not to mention those betas, those lost games, or even like the rare games that wouldn't be able to be playable by a great majority of people if it weren't for the, technology we have to upload them to the internet and then the ability to download them and play them on your computer. I mean, that would be a lot of software that a lot of people would miss out on because no emulation. And then you have those people too, they're like, it's a legality issue, it's illegal, it's bad to download these ROMs from the internet. Well, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know if it's technically legal or illegal. People are going to tell you, no, it's legal. People are going to tell you, no, it's illegal. And then some people are going to tell you it's illegal unless you own the physical copies. But let's be honest here. Nobody gives a shit if you download a 20 to 30-year-old video game from a console that's now obsolete, that no one's making money off of anymore. No like police station is going to send guys out to your house at like 3 o'clock in the morning, authorized to use lethal force because you downloaded a Nintendo game. It's just not going to happen. Trust me, they have more important things to do than deal with, a 20-year-old Nintendo game. So again, this wasn't a video to like tell you shouldn't go out and buy retro consoles. I mean, if you wanted to, this isn't going to change your mind. That's totally okay, and I would prefer to have those systems too. But when it comes down to it, an emulator, you have to admit, is a lot more convenient. It's better cost-wise, allows you to experience a ton of games you otherwise never would have been able to play, and not to mention it's just overall convenient for anyone. Like, say if I want to record gameplay, easier to do it off an emulator. If I want to take it to work with me on my little Android tablet with physical controls, I can do that, and I could sit there, I could play like some Duke Nukem, like the platformer game, the real game. We're not talking about forever here. On my lunch breaks, you could do that on an emulator. You don't have to be tethered to a TV to play. And then on top of all this, if you're like new to the hobby, if you've never played some old school Super Mario Brothers before, some old school DOS games, I would highly encourage that you go first and you download an emulator on a computer, because you probably have one because you're watching this video right now, and see if you even like that style of gameplay first before you go and spend all this money on all these old consoles. Because a lot of video games from back in the day, you gotta admit, they were very simple. That doesn't mean bad, but they were simplistic in terms of their gameplay, their graphics. All around, they were a lot simpler. And you want to make sure that you enjoy that style of gameplay before you go out and spend all the money on these consoles you may not even want in the first place. So to end this video, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my completely unwanted 2 cents on this silly subject. And that, well, if you enjoy console gaming, that's totally fine. I have no issue with it. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong for doing it. It's all just subjective, and I just wanted to explain some of the upsides to an emulator. And, I just hope that if anything else, you could at least take away from this video a little bit of insight as to the other viewpoint on this subject. So, tell me in the comments below what a dumbass faggot I am. Subscribe if you want more of me, and thank you for watching. Have a good one.